this is one of those charts that we've had for many, many years and is in some sense an eternal chart because our mission overall hasn't really changed in a number of years. Digital experience is still, as a product, is still about delivering business critical experiences for our customers that combine together applications, processes, content into that experience. So we're not a website builder, we're there for complex, often authenticated experiences. And you can see on this chart some examples of the kind of customers that we have. Not simple organizations and not simple requirements. All of that on a cloud native platform that can scale and perform with the reliability and scalability that these businesses require. In the last, well, I guess it's 11 months now, since the beginning of this year, we've done 9 releases. And the highlights of those releases are what we see on the chart here. We have had a big focus on what we call cloud native adoption, which means Kubernetes implementation for DX. And this year we have shipped support, building on our OpenShift support. We shipped support for Amazon, for Azure, we already had OpenShift support. That's designed to help customers to deploy faster. We've been reworking DX's user experience to increase the productivity of our users. That's something, again, we've been working on every month all the way through the year. And this year we've shipped a new digital asset management capability and a new content management user interface. And those are features, we shipped them in June, and then we've updated them every month since then. They're now pretty rich, deep pieces of functionality. We've also been paying attention to our developers. All DX deployments have custom applications inside of them, and one of the things that we've been focused on is delivering a more modern set of APIs for the product. So those are the things that we've done so far this year. We have one more release, well, 2 more releases in some sense coming this year. Next week, on the 17th, we will ship our 10th and 11th releases for the year, and those are going to contain the things that we see on the chart here. I guess it's roadmap. It's just very, very near-term roadmap. The most exciting part of that release is what we see in the big pink box, which is accessing DAM and Content Composer, which are our new user interfaces and our new capabilities from an existing DX deployment. So all of our existing capabilities all of our new capabilities have been delivered as containerized applications built on Node.js or other new technologies and running on a Kubernetes platform. That's a hurdle for customers to get over. It's something that, although almost all of our customers are on a Kubernetes journey, it's not something which they're necessarily ready to commit to yet for DX. So what this feature will enable our customers to do is to deliver to keep their existing trusted DX platform where it is and add our new capabilities on top of that so they can leverage those. And we think that's going to be something that our existing customers appreciate enormously. Initially, that's going to be supported with OpenShift, and we'll follow with other Kubernetes platforms in due course. We're adding native support for progressive web applications. So progressive web applications are a way of delivering websites that work really nicely on mobile devices, and that is built-in native support with the product. And then finally, again for developers, we're delivering new tools that makes it much easier for developers to work locally and sync to DX. That's something we've had as a fragmented capability for a number of years. What we're starting to do is to bring it all together into a new tool that we call DX Client. And of course, there are updates to our APIs, to DAM, to Content Composer, also as part of that release. Now, talking about where we're going next. In 2021, these are our focus areas. First focus area is about the UI. So having worked this year on digital asset management and content management, next year our primary UI focus is going to be on site management. So that's taking the content and the applications that you have in DX and putting that together into a website. Because although a lot of customers want mobile apps and other headless devices, websites are still an important part of how they interact with their customers. Now, of course, that's possible with DX today. So what are we going to do differently? First thing we're going to do differently is to make a site management page composition experience that doesn't really rely on application developers being there day to day. Obviously, there's still a role for application developers, but we want business users, marketers, content managers to be able to put web pages together, lay content out on the page, lay applications out on the page, end to end, and publish it without needing to go and call a developer. We plan to deliver a new rendering model to go with that, which will be based around HTML and content managed rendering model, so getting away from the server-side Java model that we've had in the past, although none of that is going to go away. And obviously for our existing customers, that's very important that they're able to integrate their existing content and applications into these new sites. We also plan to think about our personalization capability. DX has a built-in personalization engine, which is more powerful than a lot of people think, and also pretty hard to access. So this box at the top right is all about building APIs for those personalization for those personalization capabilities, and extending our what we call our Experience API with those personalization rules. So if you're building a mobile app and coming to get our content via those APIs, then you ought to be able to get that content, but personalize it at the same time towards your the context that you're accessing it from, and that's obviously going to enable you to deliver a richer and more targeted experience in those applications. We have activities planned to improve our multilingual solution. So we have a multilingual solution in DX, but it's a little bit hard to set up, and it's got some limitations. So we plan on enhancing that. Also for existing customers, we need to enhance the way DX URLs work to include explicitly specified URL. And then finally, we're not finished on our Kubernetes journey. There's lots to do to improve our exploitation of Kubernetes, logging and metrics, for example, but other things too. We will certify our operator on OpenShift, and we're going to continue to expand the platforms that we support as customers request other platforms. And there'll be other enhancements to DAM and Content Composer and so on along the way as well. In terms of the architectural roadmap, we have shown the version of these slides for a couple of years now, and really the story hasn't changed. We take our core with those APIs, legacy APIs on top of it. We've wrapped the Experience API around that, and still the goal is that that Experience API covers 100% of the product. We're going to start this year, I think, re-architecting the core, breaking it into new services. And of course, all the new things that we're building, DAM and Content Composer, live in separate Docker containers running on Node or other new technologies. On top of that API, we're building new UIs. So I talked already about DAM and Content Composer. And then, of course, next year, one of our focus areas is to add site management into that. Those are the same APIs that customers can use to build their own applications running on top of DX, their own sites. So nothing is hidden. There's no more private APIs. This architectural roadmap is something that we've had since very early on in HCL's involvement with this technology, and we're just kind of working through this as we go. In terms of the actual release calendar for next year, it looks a bit like this. From a marketing perspective, we will have two releases, a spring release and a fall release. So in something like April, May, and something like October, November, dates to be determined. But underneath that, we're going to continue making code available every 4 weeks. So the next release will be on the 14th of December, and then roughly every 4 weeks thereafter. Slightly extended, I think, because of the end of year holidays, but every 4 weeks through the year. Updates to our Docker-based product. On-premises customers will see between 2 and 4 cumulative fixes every year, and we would target those to align sometime in that springtime timeframe, and then also in the autumn and fall, we'll have a CF as well. So that's what we plan in terms of our release calendar. We only commit to 9 or 10 Docker updates a year because we have found it necessary a couple of times to skip one when there's holidays, around Thanksgiving, for example, or if we are in preparation for a major release, it's sometimes helpful to skip a release just to help everybody get ready. So that's been something we've been doing through the last 12 months, and we're going to keep going next year. In terms of our interoperability roadmap, This is very important for existing customers to understand where we are going with the product. So I showed you the architectural roadmap a couple of slides ago, and talked a little bit about how our goal is to start to break the DX core up into smaller services and add new services to DX not based on Webster Application Server. Our existing customers are typically on a DX 9.5 or, well, actually most of them are 9.5 WAS install, traditional WAS clustering. When we released 9.5 last year, we committed to at least 5 years of support for that architecture, and honestly, it'll probably be longer. So this purple line indicates that traditional WAS support until at least that time, with 2 to 4 CF updates per year. In parallel, we also have shipped the product on a Docker and Kubernetes basis, right? So we have a Docker image with DX in it, which was effectively taken from the traditional WAS deployment. And as I mentioned, over time, we're going to evolve that Docker image to be more native, more friendly for the Kubernetes environment than it currently is. But the aim is to maintain API compatibility between that Docker image on Kubernetes and the traditional WAS deployment. New services such as DAM, Content Composer, Experience API are only going to be available on Kubernetes, and they're going to see updates at a frequency of something like 9 or 10 per year. And as I mentioned in the release that we have planned for next year, for next week, we also intend to deliver interoperability between that existing core deployment and our new services running in Kubernetes, with the aim that that makes it possible for our customers to access those new capabilities without immediately replatforming their DX deployment. So there's 2 key messages on this chart for existing customers. One is there's no short-term pressure to migrate or move to Kubernetes. There's at least, well, now 4 more years of support, and according to where our customer base is, as we get closer to that, I suspect that could be extended. Equally, it's also important to convey that Kubernetes is the direction of travel for the product. It is where we are heading, and so that's the bottom line of this chart, the red part. And we would encourage all customers to start to look at that, and maybe when we have the hybrid support available next week, to start to try that out. So with that, that concludes this short roadmap session for Digital Experience. We have just 1 or 2 minutes there. I don't know if there's any questions in the chat, Peter, that we should look to answer.
Yeah, there are no questions.
Okay, well, that concludes this session. Thank you, everybody, for your attention. I hope you enjoyed it. If you do come up with questions afterwards, please reach out, and we'll be happy to answer them. Thank you very much.